Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to move on to our heroic super guide for the Steel Sentinel from League of Explorers. This heroic boss I think is pretty cool. Back in the day you had to be pretty smart about how you designed your deck to be able to beat this. Because you can do only incremental damage, 1 damage point at a time. There's big minions in the way, his life total will take a time. How do you just create a deck where you have enough sources of damage? Because big creatures won't do more damage than a little creature. There are a lot more tools nowadays, as you'll see in the decks we create, but what I crafted at the time, which I was quite proud of, was a very well thought out Dreadsteed deck, to be able to essentially give you an infinite source of 7 damage per turn based on all the Dreadsteeds on the board, to be able to eventually deal with all these creatures, kill him, and not run out of resources. Now, nowadays there's a lot more options. The big themes you want in your deck are firstly, an emphasis on killing creatures outright, i.e. not killing them by doing damage, but cards that actually say destroy. So cards that have poisonous, or cards that just destroy outright, like Valspine Slayer, Black Knight, Assassinate, etc. So critical to be able to kill things instantly without having to, deal 7 damage to something by actually hitting it 7 times with things. That will just take forever. The other important theme is weapon removal, because he doesn't run a huge number of minions in his deck. If he did, it would probably be almost impossible to beat him. So weapon removal, because he does play a bunch of minions and will keep hitting you in the face. The third thing that goes along with that is healing capability, because you will take a lot of face damage as you try to... It'll take forever to kill him, which means he has lots of time to just keep doing face damage to you with weapons, with his minions, etc. So you want some ability to heal, something like a Reno to rely on at the end, or just big powerful healing spells. And then the fourth theme in terms of how you kill him is the ability to spawn lots of cheap minions. Big minions barely help you at all. You really just want to be able to generate lots of little 1/1s in whatever format works for that class, and we'll look at what tools work for each class. That's the theme. Let's look at the specific decks. First up is Druid, and the idea is to mill him. And the core of the deck, the absolute core, is the idea of running him out of cards and just relying on your single copy of Jade Idol to ensure that you never fatigue, but will be able to, once he's out of resources, just flood the board with minions. The fact that they're 7/7s, 8/8s doesn't actually matter. It's just the fact that you have multiple minions on board, that you're not taking any fatigue, because as soon as you would take fatigue, you make the Jade Idol shuffle into the deck rather than spawning a minion. And then once you've run them out of resources, you're guaranteed to be able to do lots of damage. So there's naturalizers for outright removal of minions. Getting a Doomsayer off is very valuable to be able to outright destroy some of his minions. You have the Brand Cold Light Oracle combo to be able to, once he's low on resources, just speed up his milling game, because you want him to be taking fatigue every turn while you use your Jade Idols to stave off fatigue. Feral Rage to gain new life. Gluttonous Oozers to deal with some of his weapons and also gain new life. Mulch, again, single target removal. Fandral, if you can get this out towards the end and combo it with Jade Idol, it's really nice to speed up being able to shuffle into your deck and get minions, so that you don't need to spend as many turns just shuffling back in, but can just be getting the minions out and speeding up the damage you do to him. Swipe is just to deal with some of his early board states have quite a few things at 1 health, so this just helps you clear them. BGH is outright removal. Harrison Jones removal for his weapon while drawing into your important cards. Getting through your whole deck is important because you are running Reno, which will only be activatable once you actually get through pretty much the whole deck, because you do have a lot of duplicates. Dark Whispers and Wisps of the Old Gods are temporary, in some board states you'll just want to get a bunch of 1/1s out to do a bit of incremental damage to him, or have tools to deal with minions that he actually plays, to run into them to help remove them if you're low on outright removal, like Naturalize, Mulch, etc. And Tree of Life, 2 Tree of Lives give you the ultimate ability to heal back up to full. You don't really care about healing him back up to full, because you will eventually win the long game, because he'll keep taking fatigue damage, while you won't take any fatigue damage because of your Jade Idol. So put 2 of these in, the absolute ways to, if you do drop low on life, be able to heal back up to full and still stick to your game plan. I'd say this is a very, very solid deck. It's very reliable because it has an absolute foolproof long game if you can get there, and some very big heals to maximize your chance of getting there. The Hunter deck is a hodgepodge of everything. We have Hunter's Marks, obviously great to change minions' health to 1 so that one thing can kill them instead of the usual thing where they cannot get killed. Doomsayers again to clear some of his early board states. We have the Dreadscale Acid Maw combo, and Acid Maw is good even without Dreadscale, just if you're about to march some minions into something, it instantly kills it even though you're doing 1 damage. Gluttonous Oozes again for weapon removal, as is Harrison Jones. Morose is another nice one, which I started adding to a lot of these decks because of its ability to spawn a lot of 1/1s. Over many turns you get tons of value in terms of being able to incrementally march those into minions or do damage to face. And it can essentially be your late game. If you do get him to fatigue, you get the Morose out on the board, and it will eventually fill up the board with 1/1s that can do 7 damage to him per turn. Power Shot, some cheap AoE, as is Unleash the Hounds, good to combo with Hunter's Mark. Antique Healbot for healing. Destroy outright, Hemet Nessingwary makes its way in because he does play some beasts. Kodos similarly just outright destroy things, as do Bookworms, which we're running Deathwing to act as the activator for that. Again, this outright destroys things, as does Black Knight. And Sylvanas sort of effectively outright destroys something by actually stealing it. Consistent with those themes that we've talked about. In the case of Mage, we again use Morose as our quote-unquote finisher if we really need it. If we do fatigue him and get him through his whole deck, Morose is what can stick to the board and generate 7 1/1s that mean we can do a lot of damage each turn. Kaldara Drake serves that purpose too. If that can stick at the end, you can be using your hero power for additional bunch of pings per turn in addition to whatever attacks you can muster. So these are important in classes with a hero power that doesn't let you create minions or sort of stack damage. So in Mage, we rely more on poison. I put in Emperor Cobras, Giant Wasps, Stubborn Gastropods, things that will insta-kill minions as we need it. Potion of Polymorph to turn something into a 1/1 that we can kill cheaply. Polymorphs for the same reason. Antique Healbots for healing. Big Game Hunters for instant destruction. The usual weapon removal in the form of Gluttonous Ooze and Harrison Jones. Kodo and Bookworm again with Deathwing as the activator, and we also have the Kaldara Drake Dragon sitting there. Myexna for more poison, it can potentially auto-kill 2 things. Reno, even though there's a lot of duplicates, again, our game plan sort of relies on running through most of his resources, getting all the way through to the end of our deck, and then having that ability to heal back up to 30, obviously critical. Sylvanas and Black Knight again in this one. Paladin is a fantastic class for taking on the Steel Sentinel. Your hero power for starters, you don't even need an end game beyond that. If you do run him through all his resources, your hero power will accumulate 7 1/1s that can be doing 7 damage per turn to him. In addition, Paladin has just lots of ways to spawn cheap dudes. Between Muster for Battle, over here, Stand Against Darkness, equalities to deal with his minions so your 1/1s do just kill them outright. We again put in Doomsayers. Eldor Peacekeepers, so if there's a threat of his which we can't deal with immediately, it's at least doing very little damage to us incrementally. We have a bit of poison in the form of Giant Wasp. Ooze, Morose, Healbots, we've seen the same kind of themes. The outright removal in terms of dragons. This time no Deathwing that I decided to put in here, but I do have the Alexstrasza because it's a big dragon that could also heal you up if you need it. Eadric the Pure, another nice way if you can't clear his board to at least very much neutralize the threat of it. Reno and Vine Cleavers, yet another way to be spawning multiple dudes to be able to keep doing incremental damage as you need it. The Priest deck I built focuses almost exclusively on healing, and that's why I titled it Can It Kill? At the end of the day, its finisher, so to speak, is again Morose, having that stick on the end of the board once you've worked through all these resources to be able to just be doing little bits of damage to him, and Shadow Form is in there for that purpose too, to make your hero power be able to hit him each turn for some damage as well, rather than healing yourself to speed up the demise. We have a lot of removal. Cabal Shadow Priest acts as removal by stealing something. We run Alexstrasza again as the dragon that activates Bookworms. We have the Kodos. The Shadow of Deaths are big for his Tuskar Jousters and 5/6 taunts, etc. Humongous Razorleaf. I cannot actually remember why I put that in here. Seems like a mistake, actually, because I don't really have any activators for it. I think that's a mistake. And mind controls are big as well, because when he plays these mid-range minions, you just need a way to essentially act as a destruction tool, but gives you another thing to be able to do some incremental damage either to his face or run into something else. And you'll get to 10 mana and have those turns where he's just playing one medium-sized thing that you don't want to run your whole board into to deal with, so you just want to mind control. Rogue abounds in destruction tools. So Valspine Slayers are amazing. Assassinate, great for dealing with his mid-range stuff. Blade of Cthulhu's great for dealing with his mid-range stuff. And feed well into playing a Cthulhu, which does all its damage through 1 damage at a time anyway, so it actually essentially has its full value. So if you buff the Cthulhu by killing 2 mid-range things, you can get down like a 15-15. That does 15 damage, clearing his board and setting his life total lower and speeding things up. Onyxia is a good one, which I started running because basically it's a cheap way to just fill your board with 1/1s reliably. The 8/8 doesn't help you that much, but it's a bit like Morose, can be a sort of a tool at the end game, or just prepared if you don't have immediate destruction tools in your hand or the right combos, sets up a board where you will be able to deal with those things. A Doomcaller gives you the ability to play your Cthulhu a second time as well if it gets destroyed. Other than that, mostly tools we've seen between weapon removal and whatnot. Envenom Weapon gives you the ability to kill things outright as well. Morose, the finisher against Sabotage, yet another way to destroy enemy minions, and in an ideal world you even combo it with destroying a weapon of his, and 2 heal bots and the Reno to act as the heal to keep you alive during this whole process. The same themes continue for Shaman, nothing too surprising here. The Shaman specific things here, we put in a bit of poison with Giant Wasp, call in the finishers as a way to summon a bunch of creatures. Hex obviously really good for dealing with some of those mid-game threats. The usual destruction tools. Volcano does all its damage through 1 damage at a time anyway, so we can put that one in. Myexna to kill multiple things. Calamos with the activator of Firefly or the elemental that you get from it, the Flame Elemental. This, often you'll want to heal if you're low on life, or just summon a bunch of 1/1s to have a board to be able to keep doing incremental damage. And in this one we actually played Alexstrasza and Onyxia because they both serve important purposes. Warlock is the deck I beat him with at the time, and I was quite proud of how I built this. It has some differences. We don't have all the same tools we do in modern times. At the time, by the way, Dreadsteed worked differently in that it came back instantly. It didn't wait till the end of the turn. They changed it when they released Defile. So the general idea was to get a Dreadsteed or 2 out, play Baron Rivendare and march them into things to get even more Dreadsteeds out, even faceless them as well, and just have these minions that for the rest of the game you have your board of 1/1s. Now you usually want to keep a spot free so that you can actually play important things like Reno Jackson, like Healbots. So you usually want to stick with about 6 Dreadseeds, not actually get to the full 7, because you'll need space to play some very critical things. And that's why actually it might look weird. Drain Life is in here to kill your own minions, so that gives you the ability to like free up a spot if you do have a board full of 7 things, and they're not all Dreadsteeds, like kill something off yourself to be able to then Reno Jackson to get back to full. We do have removal in the form of Twisting Nether for the full board, Siphon Souls, Big Game Hunters for the bigger things. Harrison Jones and Acidic Swamp Ooze for the weapons. Brewmaster means that if you do have the space, you can potentially get off like a second Reno if you really need to buy the extra time. Blood Cells, Corsairs are in there for added weapon removal, because often he'll play a weapon, immediately use one charge, just have one charge left, so your Corsairs as good as the outright ones. Corruption to deal with minions, Mortal Coil to draw you into your late game, and Sacrificial Pact to act as even more healing. You can essentially play those for free on your Dread Steeds because you get them right back. Warriors Hero Power, of course, helps you not die, but there's always, once you get to the late game and you've dealt with his resources, something I should have put in the other decks is Sir Finley Murgleton. Gives you the option to get the Paladin Hero Power to really speed up his demise. A lot of tools we've seen, like Doomsayers, Execute's a great warrior-specific one to help you finish off those minions you did do 1 damage to. Moreaus essentially can act as a finisher. Heal bots for healing. 1 Grim Patron can also act as your late game if you can get that activating and spawning a few things by charging it into things that are cheaper. You can get a board of multiple threats. Tentacle for arms is essentially an infinite damage in the very long run, so it's worth including just a one-of as yet another way to, if you do fatigue him but don't have a lot of threats, be able to keep getting in damage over and over again. Bookworms again for instant removal to be paired with Onyxia, which gives you a board. Crush to finish stuff off like Execute. King Mush, yet another way to be able to instantly destroy damaged minions if you can do some little damage to them in the first place. And lastly, when it came to beating him with a deck of basic and common cards only, as you can see in the screenshot, we went with Paladin because of how good its hero power is and the cards it has, including common cards, for just quickly getting a whole bunch of guys. So Stands Against Darkness, Lost in the Jungle, Horned Creeper. You have good ways to just get several dudes out to be able to keep doing that incremental burst damage. In terms of common-only weapon removal, we run Toxic Sewer Ooze in addition to the Acidic Swamp Ooze. We have some other cheap one-drops like Argent Squire and Righteous Protector to help us in the early game. Repentance acts as a sort of preemptive equality. That's a common card. You want to try get this to hit, anticipate when he'll play, a mid-range minion, so that it takes just one hit from one of your smaller guys to kill. Mad Scientist can also help pull these out. Because we don't have the hardcore spells like Equality and whatnot, because we have common cards only, the poisonous minions like Stubborn Gastropod and Giant Wasp are quite important. Keeper of Uldamon as well, reducing big guys. Heal bots for the healing. Venomancers to try kill 1 or 2 things as well, but ultimately you just need to get lucky and time things right. It was a slog in my case, but I eventually got there. But you want to time things right, get in all the poking damage you can with your little guys, preemptively play minions to be able to poison things, and get a little lucky, and then you can get through even the Steel Sentinel in heroic mode with basic and common cards only. I like this boss. It's tedious to beat him. It definitely is time consuming and feels like a slog, but I think it's quite nice in terms of needing to put a solid thought process into your deck design, and here you have the output. 10 decks that took him down in heroic mode with every single class, and even a deck of basic and common cards only. See you next time.